Hi, I'm Diane Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a renowned consumer psychologist and the founder and CEO of The Buycologist, no other than Dr. Chris Gray.
Hello, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm fabulous, Dr. Chris, and welcome to Book 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Of course. But first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me on. I was so excited when we made the connection. I have been a huge reader my entire life, and this is a book that is very special to me. And so we'll definitely get into that. But if I introduce myself, I'm Chris Gray. I am a trained clinical psychologist, and I've been working in the marketing and sales world for a little more than 30 years. And I'm often asked how I made that transition from being a psychotherapist into working in the business world. And honestly, after many years of school, I finally, really started to practice and realized I didn't love it. And it's a kind of career that you really have to love because it really requires a huge investment of time, effort, emotion, and all of those things. And so I needed to find some other ways that I could put my love of psychology to good use. And I led my first focus group many years ago, and I fell in love with that. And I realized that what I really love is the process of understanding how people think, how they, make their way through their day-to-day lives and create their own experiences. And then, how they, do something as simple as go to the grocery store and select products. It seems like, whether what you buy in the laundry detergent aisle, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of choice to be made, but you'd be amazed at what's happening underneath the surface and the intricate factors that go into those decisions we make every day.
Intricate indeed. Dr. Chris Gray, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So tell us, what is the Buycologist?
So the Buycologist we're consultancy, and my purpose in creating the Buycologist was that I really want to elevate the role of psychology in the world of business, to make it a force for good. I think often psychology in the business world, and particularly in sales and marketing, kind of gets a bad rap, and sometimes rightfully so. I think there are a lot of very amateur marketers out there who think they're psychologists and kind of use psychology as a bag of tricks to get people to buy things they don't want. And I really, after 30 years working in the sales and marketing world, I wanted to really focus on real, ethical, useful psychology that is actually far more effective than using psychology as a bag of tricks. And so I started the Buycologist about 6 years ago. And, as I said, my purpose is to really make psychology a force for good. And to do that, I have to really stay on top of the latest news and research in psychology. And that's one of the reasons I chose this book, is because it is really groundbreaking work from a renowned neuropsychologist. And many of the things that she explains in the book are things that I grew up and made my way through college and grad school learning the wrong things. We thought they were right at the time, but many things have changed recently, and it's really been eye-opening to me. And so, I want to stay on top of that because it's important for me, but it's also important for my clients. I want them to be getting the best information possible so they can make the best choices possible and be as successful as possible, all while being, ethical and effective at the same time.
Dr. Chris, the book opens with "Your brain is not for thinking." How does this idea refrain or understanding of the brain's primary purpose?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because she calls that her half lesson. It's 7.5 lessons about the brain. She starts with the half lesson, which is kind of funny because it is really the basis of the entire book, is this idea that your brain really is not primarily for thinking. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like, of course, your brain's for thinking. That's what it's there for.
Yes.
As she explains, though, that is not the primary function of your brain. That is very secondary to its primary function, which is monitoring your body's systems and keeping you alive. And that trumps everything else that your brain does. And your brain, as a result, what it does is it really modulates your body mechanism and is constantly monitoring what's going on inside, what's going on outside, and it's helping you to make the best choices possible by anticipating what may happen next, and very quickly helping you to focus on those things that are most important, to activate those parts of your body that will be most important to that. And that is the primary focus. And so, when we think about it that way, it does set up a lot of new information and new ways of thinking about what our brain is there for and what constitutes our mind.
Dr. Chris, if you compare buycologist to that phrase, what is it?
What is the buycologist?
Yes.
Well, the buycologist, I do public speaking, I lead workshops and master classes. I also do consulting with a variety of clients. And my focus is on how do we take true principles of psychology and not use them as, gimmicks, but use them to deeply understand their target audience, how their minds work, how they make decisions, what their needs are, what their aspirations are, to form resilient relationships with their customers in such a way that customers win as well as the sellers win. And so it really is about how do we help everyone win in these scenarios by understanding what those needs are and then providing better ways to do that fit with how the mind works.
Dr. Chris, what does it mean for the brain to manage your body budget? And how does this influence emotions, decisions, or stress?
So if you think about the mind as kind of overseeing your body and managing your body budget is anything from your energy level, your mood, the hormones that go through your body, how your brain is functioning. It is constantly making adjustments based on what it anticipates you will need in any given moment. And it does this all behind the scenes. We're usually not aware of it. And so what it is doing is it's helping us make decisions. One way that it does that is it focuses our attention. And so if we think about attention, I like to make an analogy of attention is like money. We only have so much, right? So maybe you go out on a Friday night and let's talk about cash. You've got a wallet full of cash. Well, you only have so much. So how will you spend that cash? Because it is a limited resource, just like attention. And if I put all my cash and spend on something really extravagant, then I don't have very much left. Attention is very much the same way. If I'm focusing all of my attention on, let's say, a conversation with someone, I may be in a crowded room, but all of the noise and goings on in conversation and going on in the room fades into background noise because I'm focused. My attention is focused on the person that I'm talking to. And so that's very much your brain modulating your systems. That's just one system. But, you think about what that means in a marketing perspective. The number one hurdle, the very first hurdle that anyone in sales and marketing has to overcome is gaining attention. Because if we can't gain attention, then we don't even exist in the minds of our consumer. We've lost any chance to communicate with them, to try to persuade them that our product is fantastic, and to encourage them or motivate them to make a purchase. And so how we get attention and how attention works, the psychology of attention, is very important to understand. And there are two ways that we can do that. One is through disruption, which is typically what we think of when we think of getting someone's attention. It's simply standing out in some fashion against your environment. So that's why school buses are bright yellow. That's why ambulances have sirens, so that we can't miss them. They disrupt our environment very quickly, and we notice what's happening right away. The problem with disruption is that it only guarantees you a split second of attention. Because if your brain captures something that is disruptive, and your brain decides, nah, it's not really all that interesting, then you've lost the moment and your attention will move somewhere else. So the other key component of gaining attention is relevance. Relevance means that something is meaningful to us. It matters to us. We care about it. And so when something is relevant, then it can not only capture our attention, but it can maintain our attention and engage us. And so now we've not only created a moment, we've created an engagement where we now have the opportunity to communicate. And that becomes really important because we need to understand our audiences. We need to understand who we're talking to at a very deep level, because we need to know what's relevant to them, not to me, not to us. Oftentimes, a big mistake that I've seen marketers or creators make is they assume that, well, I like this and I'm interested in this, so therefore everyone else is. And that's not always the case. In fact, it's very often not the case. We are typically not in the same sector as our customers. They have different needs, different desires, different aspirations, different things that matter to them. And so the better that we can understand that, the deeper we go into that that understanding of them and develop our empathy for them, putting ourselves in their shoes, the more we'll be relevant, the more we'll be able to capture attention, and the more we'll be able to engage attention and motivate behavior. And so that's just one way that as our brains are kind of overseeing the functions of our body, attention is one of those. And it is doing this, again, mostly behind the scenes. We're not even aware that our brains are making these decisions. They do it automatically, and they typically do it based on previous experience. And so, for example, you live in a busy city like I do. I'm from Chicago. I hear car alarms go off all the time. Now, every time I hear a car alarm go off, and it may get my attention for a second, but I don't immediately go run over and see what's going on or call the police. I know that that's probably someone just bumped into someone else or something like that, and it just went off, and then a few seconds later it goes off. But if in the middle of the night you hear a car alarm go off and you recognize it as your own unique car alarm, that is certainly going to get your attention and keep your attention and get you motivated very quickly. And so that really is the power of relevance to capture and engage our attention.
Interesting answer, Dr. Chris, and very well said. Why does Barrett argue against the lizard brain theory, and what does this myth reveal about misunderstandings in neuroscience?
I think the first thing to know about Dr. Feldman Barrett is that she is at the top of her field. She's a neuropsychologist. She has written a couple of books that are just mind-blowing. They're great. You can see my own copy here is just dog-eared and marked up and everything. And she also has another book that's much thicker and called How Emotions Are Made. And that really has been kind of her focus, is how we create emotion and how emotions affect us. Now, when it comes to the lizard brain, now this is, she refers to the lizard brain, or it's also, the lizard brain is part of what's known as the triune brain, where you have the lizard brain, then you have the emotional brain, the limbic system, and then you have the neocortex, which is considered the rational part of the brain. And she refers to this as one of the most persistent and successful mistakes in science. There is no such thing as a lizard brain. There's no such thing as a limbic system that delegates emotion. There's no such thing as a neocortex that is responsible for rational thought. That's not the way your brain works. Your brain works as a total system. And just about everything that you do involves all parts of your brain. And so this idea that we have this like primal lizard brain that, our other parts of the brain have to kind of fight against and keep in check. It is something that is wildly out of date. I think that idea was created more than 100 years ago, and has been disproven time and time and time again, but it persists. And I think part of the reason it persists is because I think it gives us some comfort. It kind of intuitively feels like it makes sense. Like we can feel sometimes within us like, oh, I feel emotional about this, but I have to think through it first, But it is not a battle going on within your brain. It is simply you making decisions about how you will respond to things in your environment. And so it is important for us to understand that because, I think that when we think about emotion and rational thinking as working together, one's not bad, one's not good. They're not separate entities. They work in concert together to help us make decisions, make our way through life. And so it's, we often hear like, oh, well, you keep your emotions in check so you can be rational. No one is rational. In fact, there's a great saying, and I don't remember who said it, but it's the saying is, you're not rational, you're just rationalizing. And I've been in conversations with people many times where they've said, I only make rational decisions. I don't let emotion affect my decision making. And I'm like, oh boy, you've got some tough lessons ahead. And so I think from a marketing perspective, it's important for us to think not only about rationally how we want to speak to our consumers, our targets, but how do we want to engage with them emotionally? What are the emotional responses that we would like them to have in relation to our brand so that we can be strategic about it and we can be intentional about it rather than leaving it to chance? Because emotion can either be a brand's biggest asset or it can be one of its greatest hurdles.
Thank you so much.
Doing just fine.
Thank you so much for sharing your 7.5 lessons about the brain. And Dr. Chris, as a renowned consumer psychologist and the founder of Buycologist, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Yes. Well, my long-term goal is my long-term goal is really to foster deeper, more meaningful engagements between brands and consumers, ones that create wins for both and develop long-term resilient relationships so that both brand and consumer are winning. One is not feeling like they're being taken advantage. The other is not feeling like they have to go around tricking people. And I want to do that because not only is it something that's ethical? Yes, I want to be able to sleep at night, but also it's more effective. One of the questions that I always get is, so you're a consumer psychologist. So you trick people into buying things they don't want. And I used to hate that question, but I love it now because it's an intro for me to talk about this. If we feel like, think about your own experience. If you feel like you've been tricked into buying something, you feel like, you buy something, you go home, you're like, I really didn't want that, and gosh, they were really pushy, and it's not living up to my expectations. Your reactions are to feel angry, to feel resentful, and if that continues, that experience continues, then you start to feel like you want to avoid that situation. And avoidance is always a really bad thing if you're a brand, because if your consumers are avoiding you, well, you're probably not going to do very well. And so I offer an alternative, which is a deep understanding of your consumers that allows you to build relationships with them that are resilient, they're positive, they are deeply felt, and most importantly, they are forgiving, because we all make mistakes, whether we're people or we're brands. We all make mistakes, whether, a brand sometimes may come up with an innovation that falls flat, or maybe it comes up with a pricing strategy that really bothers or irritates its consumer base. If you have a resilient relationship with your consumers, they're not going to automatically go running off to your competitors. They're going to give you a second chance. They're going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you'll get it right the next time, or you'll make it right this time. And so what that allows for are longer term repeat buyers who not only buy more frequently from you, but they may buy more from you. They may sing your praises on social media and refer others. And it is far more profitable than simply trying to trick people into buying something once and then having them walk away and having to now go find more people to go trick. Instead, now you've got a loyal fan base of people that are willing to buy from you. And so that is, my long-term goal is to use psychology as a force for good to help sales and marketing leaders and their teams feel good about what they do and even better about what they can accomplish.
Good luck to your goals, Dr. Chris, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a psychologist like you?
That's great. Well, maybe I think one of the things that I would say is make sure that you get some experience under your belt before you make huge decisions, because we never really know how much we want to do something until we actually do it. And so I think it's important to have those experiences. And I think if for anyone out there who is interested in being more effective in sales and marketing, my advice to them would be get to know your consumers very, very well. Understand who you want to target, who you think are the best prospects for your product or service, and then really, really get to know them as deeply as you can, because the better you know them, the better you understand them, the more effective you're going to be at engaging them and motivating their behavior.
Indeed. Thank you for your advice, Dr. Chris. And after reading the book, what daily habit or perspective change could help people work with their brain better?
I think the most important thing is to remain curious. Curious about yourself and developing your own self-awareness, and curiosity about others. Always remember that everyone you meet, this is a saying, I think Bill Nye, the science guy, may have said it. Everyone you meet knows something you don't. And if you go through life with that attitude, you're going to learn so much, and you're going to grow, and you're going to be more successful simply by being curious about yourself, the world around you, and the other people that are in it.
Indeed, people, be curious. Who knows? You will be the next Einstein. Before we wrap up our discussion today, Dr. Chris, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry 2nd season, and of course my book 101 review in 5th season, comedy 101 in 2nd season, food 101 in its 5th season too. Geography 101 and Love Letters in 3rd season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its 4th season, Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Dr. Chris, what gaps in public understanding of the brain does this book address, and where should research focus next?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest gaps that's still out there is how emotions work. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what emotions are, how they operate, what they mean to us. And I think that there's still a lot of work to be done in not only research and understanding, but also communicating that out to people so that they understand. For example, common misunderstanding is that we have 6 core emotions. Well, there's no such thing. Emotions aren't like in little boxes. They're not concrete. They're not, very well defined. Emotions are more like when you go to the paint store and you see there are 100 different shades of blue. It's the same when we think about emotion. If you think about anger or sadness or happiness, each of those is like a palette where there's a zillion different variations on it that sometimes are very subtle and sometimes they're very strong. And so I think it's important for us because when you understand that, now you understand nuance, and you have a better understanding of others, you have a better understanding of yourself, and that creates a better engagement as well.
Dr. Chris Gray, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business itself?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You can visit my website at thebuycologist.com. It's BUYCOLOGIST. I recently started a newsletter that comes out once a month, so you'll not get any spammy stuff from me. It's just once a month, and I deliberately chose just to do this once a month because each of the newsletters dives into a specific aspect of consumer psychology that I think you'll find very interesting. But they are a little bit lengthier than your typical newsletter, and so I wanted to give people plenty of time to digest those and not feel like I was bombarding them. So you can sign up on my website, and I look forward to chatting with anyone. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please hit me up or send me a message.
Yes, people, let's support Dr. Chris Gray, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering business to come. So, Dr. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It was been a pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.